Wow, that's really bright. Hello. Hello. Hey. Can you hear us? Yes, you can. Excellent. Hello, everyone. So, last year, Paradox acquired the wonderfully talented team at Triumph Studios, makers of the Age of Wonders series. Anyone played Age of Wonders? Good stuff. There you go. Good. It's always a bit nervous to ask that question, right? You don't know. And yesterday, we finally revealed the game that you guys have been working on since even before the acquisition.
Absolutely.
So Age of Wonders Planetfall, which is releasing in 2019 for PC and console. With me on stage to talk more about this, Lennart Sass, co-founder and is it game director or studio manager?
Yeah, depends if you talk to a lawyer or to a gamer.
At Triumph Studios, Tom Bird, senior gameplay programmer, and Arno van Wingerden, co-founder and technical director at Triumph Studios. Welcome to the stage. How are you feeling?
Good.
Relieved. It's a great build-up to this day.
Tension built up, and then everything was released
making
yesterday.
A press demo, screenshots, trailer.
You happy with the reception so far?
Yeah, I think people seem to get it, so that's great.
Good
Lots
stuff.
of sign-ups.
We're gonna spend half an hour together going into a bit more detail about Planetfall. I think we'll start off by looking at the trailer just again. So let's see if this works.
Prepare for Planetfall.
Cool. So Age of Wonders Planetfall, releasing in 2019. I think we're going to go directly into some screens, actually, and have you guys talk a bit more about them. So I think the first question is for you, Lennart. Can you tell us a little bit about the vision here? Age of Wonders is moving into a sci-fi setting. What is the vision here? What made you decide to take this step into sci-fi?
Well, we've been long-time sci-fi fans. We've been making strategy games in fantasy settings for 20 years. So something was sort of like emerging, and we needed to do something different. And sci-fi is a great match to the war-focused turn-based gameplay of the Age of Wonders series. Just imagine tanks, orbital cannons, themes like transcendence, and that really tickled our creativity and want us to set the next Age of Wonders game in the future.
Would you say this is something that you guys have been considering even earlier when working on the earlier entries in the series?
Yeah, we've always been looking at different types of turn-based games to make, and science fiction was on top of our list. But we never really wanted to go into space because there are only so many great games out there. So a terrestrial 4X game with detailed tactical battles was high on the list.
Can you tell us a bit about the screen we're seeing here? What is it that this is showing? This is art, obviously, from...
Yeah, this is actually one of the first pieces that we made. It shows a shattered imperial city with some scout craft flying underneath. And this is one of the key elements that we took was basically take Fallout and apply it on a galactic level. So lots of things to discover, old histories, old technologies, mysteries.
I'm going to move forward to the next one, actually, and ask you to elaborate a bit on the sort of setting and the world. Where does Planetfall take place, and what kind of setting, what kind of mood and tone are you going for here?
Yeah, so it's not all dark, post-apocalyptic stuff. So the game is called Age of Wonders. So you emerge from your homeworlds to figure out what actually happened. You start to explore the destroyed worlds. They vary massively. So some can be green, some can be ice planets, some can be volcanic. And the faction that you see here are called the Vanguard. They were expeditionary forces that were in cryosleep as it all happened.
It's very the stuff that we've shown so far is all quite vibrant and colorful. There's like strong colors and strong yeah, there's a lot of vibrancy in the art. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What is the sort of the mood and the sort of feeling that you guys are aiming for here?
But the setting should be hopeful. I mean, you should be able to create a new Age of Wonders from the ruins. So you start in darkness and you can end up in some new utopia for your people. But of course, you're also welcome to create your own sort of grim version of the future and use one of the doomsday devices, one of the secret technologies that might have brought down the Empire in the first place. Yeah, this is the Kirko, which is one of the insectoid races. And yes, they can tell a little bit of sort of like an origin story of what the Zerg and the Tyranids were before they were sort of like nice insects.
Right.
But it's up to you as a player to decide how they end up. They were actually enslaved by the Star Union, and it's for them to take a path of vengeance, to wipe out humanity, for example, or to recreate their mind hive in a more sort of nice way.
So the Kirko is one of the playable races in the game, right?
Yes.
And you mentioned the Zerg there, which is obviously an inspiration, I suppose.
That's one of the, like the insectoids are of course a trope of science fiction.
Yeah.
But our insectoids are actually nice people. You can negotiate with them, they're reasonable. But the question is, do they turn up like being, like this typical destructive force that swarms planets and becomes this sort of plague? But that's up to you to decide.
So what would you guys say are the sort of favorite sci-fi IPs that maybe inspired this? What kind of science fiction worlds and settings did you guys look at for inspiration for the world of Planetfall?
They're all over the place. So for this one, it's maybe a bit of Starship Troopers, a bit like Zerg, a little bit of Fallout, of course, with its wastelands that you wonder for clues of what happened in the past. And maybe you've got some...
Dune is one of my favorite sci-fi things.
Yeah.
I really like the way in Dune that it's full of tiny little snippets of story. You have the Bene Gesserit, you have all of these sort of mythologies which come through in tiny little quotes, which seem to reveal a deeper philosophy and a deeper story than is actually explicitly told. So I was really, really sort of attracted to that. I've also liked, obviously, things like Star Wars and Star Trek. I'm personally much more into the mythological science fiction, which isn't really so serious, but much more about sort of big stories and flashing lights, explosions.
What's your favorite?
I really like the Hyperion series of Dan Simons. It's a great book and was a good inspiration. Yeah.
Very cool. All right, let's move on to gameplay a little bit. So, can you just in general give us a sense of how Planetfall plays? What will be maybe the new stuff here, both for new players and sort of people who are experienced and have experience with the Age of Wonders series?
So the main gameplay, I don't know if you can actually see, because I can't actually see the screenshot properly, but you will land on this planet. It'll be a complete mystery to you. All you'll really know is that the Empire has fallen, and it's up to you to try and figure out why it's fallen, what's happened. So you come down, maybe in the middle of a desert, which we're seeing here. There's craters everywhere, ruins and wreckage. You've found your first colony, and it's up to you to firstly explore, find the stories that we have placed which explain the world, while also figuring out ways of exploiting what you find in order to gain advantage. You're not alone on this world. There were huge sort of storms which disrupted the travel networks that the Empire used, and those have all fallen down. So you're not the only people who've landed on this planet. It's up to you to find things before other people find them, make the best use of them, because when you run into them, you don't know if they're going to respond with war or with diplomacy.
Cool. Let's see if I think we have a combat screen next. Yeah. So can we talk a bit about the combat of the game?
Well, yeah, this would be war. Essentially, moving units around, moving armies around is moment to moment what you're going to be spending an awful lot of time doing. Even if you choose to play peacefully, the world is full of angry natives, whether they be sort of killer insects or creatures made of stone or anything like that. You go into this very richly detailed combat world. It's full of destructible terrain, cover, exploding cars, I believe, are in this map. I can't actually see clearly.
Yeah, a couple of cars, yeah.
Yeah, and we've got a large number of different units for you to play with. We've made extra certain that when you choose your race, that the units that you control differ from each other much more than they did in Age of Wonders 3. So where the Vanguard might have a Marine with an assault rifle, the Kirko may have big scary claws to tear people apart.
With battle vomit.
With Battle Vomit, which is the secondary ability of the Frenzied.
So can you elaborate a little bit on the differences from Age of Wonders 3? Like maybe what is new and what have you guys expanded on in terms of the combat?
Age of Wonders 3 was a melee combat system. You couldn't miss, and it was very much about the order in which you do things. Where do you attack from? How does the enemy respond? And it was a little bit chess-like. You could predict fairly clearly what your actions would do and make plans based on that. We discovered this does not work when you have a lot of ranged combat. You need missed chances. You need uncertainty. Otherwise, the game is very confusing and fairly boring. So there's a lot more randomness in the world. You can miss. You might miss and destroy a piece of cover someone's standing behind. You might miss and blow up a car that was standing behind them and damage them like that. You might sort of take a risk and try to shoot through one of your own guys and accidentally hit them in the back of the head. That's probably the main difference.
And if you can actually turn around and you can see a big version of the same screenshot. Can you tell us a little bit about the different units we're seeing here in this screen?
Yeah, can I stand up and point at it?
Yeah, of course
Sure.
you can. Yeah.
Okay, so try not to get too much in the way. So on the right here, we have our hero. I believe this is Jack Gelder. He's one of the main heroes from the campaign. He's fully customizable. You can choose what he looks like, the weapons he's using. He's currently using a Vanguard laser rifle. In the background, the blue sort of insect guys you see, they're Kirko. So you have the Frenzied. They're the equivalent of the Marines, who you can see to the right, hiding behind that rock. And you have a Ravenous. The Ravenous is a tanky unit, heavy melee, big slashing claws. He can eat people, if you can manage it. Run up to a unit, eat him alive, he digests him, and in the same battle, he can poop out an egg. I'm serious, this is really, honestly, this is true. He poops out an egg, and the egg turns into an insect that will fight by your side. Anything else that's interesting? Another interesting thing to note is the Ravenous is the equivalent of the Vanguard tank you can't actually see. So the Vanguard tank is a heavy assault thing, a ranged unit, projects a smoke screen, whilst this is a heavy melee unit, gets into your face, smashes things up and breaks lines. So in that way, even though they sit in the same slot, the same role roughly in the army, they play very differently. So you definitely feel that when you choose your race, the actual way the combat plays out feels very different. You need to use different tactics.
That's awesome. Anything that has sort of big blue aliens pooping out insect eggs in combat, that's a good game in my book. Thank you very much for that. I think we'll move on to talk a little bit about the technology you guys are building here. Arno, can you maybe just quickly what we're seeing here on this screen, and then maybe tell us a little bit about
we made a lot of changes to our technology, and one of the big changes is the lighting that we changed. It's a more PBR light, technical term, but it responds much more natural to the environment. And that's what you see in all our screenshots everywhere. Of course, I have to say that our artists did a great job here. I mean, we have a supporting role, but the credits to the artists for this nice piece of work. Another big thing, of course, is that we finally managed to move to 64-bit. In Age of Wonders, we constantly reached the limit. Also for modding, and always on the boundaries, what was possible. And now when we move to 64-bit, we can add much more content in there.
I think I can give us another portrait like this. Can you elaborate a bit on the portrait we're seeing here?
What do you mean? Sorry?
Can you elaborate a little bit? I just switched the picture around. I didn't want to interrupt you.
This is a Kirko unit. Well, the whole thing, the background, when they changed the lighting actually really differs on this unit. So there are many new materials they can use, but also different kind of skin shaders. So we added really a lot of things, but I'm not sure I'll go too much in detail here.
Okay, cool. Let's see what we have next. So the world map, can we talk a little bit about how that works, and expansion and sort of economy on the world map?
Yeah, so I can actually see the screenshot
here.
Yeah, that's good. So what's new in this world map flow is the sector system. So you acquire new territory by adding sectors to your main city. So here you see a central Vanguard colony, and it has acquired a second agricultural zone. You start to specialize it, and there's also mutually exclusive upgrades. So you need to carefully choose how you want to boost a particular province in your colony. These are just the wilderness sectors, but you will also encounter landmarks that give immediate benefits to your armies or your cities, such as the Elysium Parks, which is basically a Las Vegas-style entertainment system. It gives entertainment to your people, allow you to recruit new types of androids who worked in the entertainment industry. But let's not elaborate on that too much. So yeah, that drastically changes the flow. You've also a new colony management system in terms of how you assign colonists. So they are like a sort of like graphic equalizer that you know from the old stereo sets, you know. So there's an amount of flexibility. So if you're short on food, for example, you can tweak, you can reassign colonists a little bit to fix a shortage, for example. So that's a new feature.
Let's see if we can go on to the next one. This is another combat shot, I believe. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so there we have the Vanguard tank I mentioned earlier. So that's the equivalent of the Ravenous laser cannons. And they are attacking quartzites. Quartzites are one of the non-intelligent species in the world. Many of the species that you come across functionals of a high level, a bit like the Native Americans. So if you imagine us as the colonizers, the natives, many of whom are intelligent, you can do diplomacy with. These guys, however, are the equivalent of maybe cougars or particularly angry elks, something like that. And they are, let me see, they use lightning bolts, they're weak to fire. So you might want to try and specialize your units in order to do more damage to them. If you could mod, for example, your Marines down there with a particular type of ammo, which would be able to do more damage to them. You can see on the right something a lot of our old fans are very excited about. The unit there is flying. So that means he can move over scenery, he can sit on top of other units, he can't be attacked by melee, just a feature of him, Age of Wonders 2. People were very happy to see back.
I'm going to keep going here, because I think we have 2 more screens. This is another map screenshot here. Can you tell us a bit about the buildings we're seeing here and the units we're seeing on this map?
Me?
Yep, okay. So here you see the Xeno Life Institute, which is a old remnant of the Empire, owned by Terratech, which is sort of like a corporation that was active on multiple worlds. Its business was genetic engineering, terraforming, all sorts of scary black sites where they secretly experimented on humans as well. So you can encounter these places and fight the monsters in it and try to retrieve some of the old technologies there. And yeah, you can choose to apply them on your own units. Do you want to keep your humans pure, or do you gonna add alien parasites to them and spawn tentacles from their back and cause a sort of bioplague that allows you to basically dominate the world at once and create a hive mind among your human colonists?
I'm gonna keep going, because I really want to hear more about this, because I think this is really cool. But I haven't actually asked you what we're seeing in this. So I want to hear about the big alien in this.
Okay,
yeah.
So as Leonard just mentioned, you choose secret tech. When you choose a secret tech, you're choosing, where do I want to take my race? Where are we going? They each represent a particular science fiction trope. And this is actually units from 2 of those secret techs facing off against each other. The right-hand side, we have Xenoplague units. You don't actually build these units. You infect enemies as you charge around the map, and they sort of spawn from the bodies of the people you've killed. Whereas on the left, we have units that represent from the Promethean. You have a sort of a heavy walker and units with flamethrowers. They specialize in essentially incineration and the destruction of unwanted elements in the Empire.
Very cool.
Insectoids or otherwise.
Insectoids or otherwise.
We don't have that much time, so I want to give the audience a chance to ask questions as well. I think we have a mic right there. I can't really see it, but if you guys have any questions, we have about 6 minutes.
Lights are bright.
So please just line up, and we'll sort of go through as many as we can. Hey, man.
All right. Yeah. So the gold standard for like planet-based sci-fi 4X is Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. And
Yes.
Firaxis tried to maybe emulate that a bit recently with Beyond Earth and didn't do so well. And it seemed like they'd learned the wrong lessons from Alpha Centauri. So would you guys say you've learned the right lessons from it?
That's a very political, dangerous question. Okay, now, we love Alpha Centauri, that's for sure. I mean, I think what's great about Alpha Centauri is the narrative element of it. Just really giving you the sense that you're exploring a world that tells its own story. Now it was one story, and what we tried to do is take that element and apply that on a slightly larger scale by having multiple planets that you visit that all contain a particular aspect of a shared history. So that narrative element for us was key and led us to decide to have the entire world take place on this galactic empire that has collapsed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
We got a short question and a longer question.
Good
The short
t-shirt.
question is more the Age of Wonders question. Are there dire penguins?
Ooh, yeah, dire penguins. That's one of the old classics. Every Age of Wonders game, since Age of Wonders 1, we have penguins that are always planning to take over the world. That's
Basically.
it has come up. I think I've seen some concepts art like 2 weeks ago. So just maybe, but there needs to be sort of alien, nasty things. So there won't be your typical king penguins with red eyes. There might be
Previous ones weren't either.
mutated by a bioplague or something like that.
Okay. And a bit of the longer question, as for the race units, how many different units can we expect per race, and how different will they be?
I believe the current setup gives you 11 or 12 units. I don't actually know exactly, including 2 of those are dedicated water units, so a light warship and a heavy warship. Then when you bring on your secret tech, that will grant you another 3 units, sometimes 4 with certain secret decks. Also, it's possible to take over other players' cities and use their race as well. You're not as good at it because obviously you can't fully research their tech tree, but in principle you could have access to up to 60 or 70 units that you could build at once. Though that's a very, very extreme example.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I think we're going to have time for just one more question. You guys are going to be around though, so if you have more questions, I mean, you guys will be in the convention area for the rest of the day as well. So just one more question.
Hello.
Hi.
In Age of Wonders, we had several levels, like you have the ground and the underground, and now we're going to have underground levels or maybe floating cities, different layers.
Well, exploration is very important in this new game, with the new sector system. Whether or not it's going to be underground, that we haven't really decided yet. I mean, it's more of a match with the fantasy-style dungeon crawling. It makes sense for dragons to live underground. It doesn't make a lot of sense for tanks and helicopters to fly underground, for example. But we have multiple layers. For example, there's the operation system, so you spread operational coverage to use your satellite attacks and your airstrikes. So that is sort of a layer that overlaps on the map to add another dimension of gameplay.
Cool. All right. Guys, that's it. We are out of time. Thank you all for coming. If you want to ask more questions to the Triumph team, you guys are here. If you want to find out more about Planetfall, make sure to sign up. That's the URL right there, and you'll be first in line for updates, and there might be some goodies as well, I think, once we get closer to release. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.